Hey everybody, welcome to the Bottom Rope Podcast. I am Adam Hernandez, and I wanted to really get to that Royal Rumble main event from last night because it was incredible. Plain and simple, incredible way to end the night. Incredible way to end one of the premier WWE pay-per-views of the year, and a way to lead into WrestleMania season, highlighting one of the best storylines that pro wrestling has given us in quite some time. Obviously, Roman Reigns came out on top. I believe his current title run has reached over 881 days. I may be not quite accurate on that number, so I apologize if I am. However, that in and of itself is obviously really, it's an impressive run. And obviously, when you look at this and with the Bottom Rope, we want to keep these things in perspective here that yes, wrestling is not real. It's obviously a story that's told, but I don't want to be one of those shows out there where, they try to play it off as it being real. What's impressive about this run, though, is how engaging it's been. And how fans of pro wrestling, fans of the WWE, for the very, very most part, haven't lost engagement with it. And when I was watching it last night, and I'm sure as many other fans were watching it last night, I thought to myself, is this the greatest, most epic story in pro wrestling that we have ever seen? Now, it for sure is the best storyline that we have going right now in pro wrestling. And when you look back at some of the more epic tales that, and that's how I want to refer to it, because it is an epic piece of storytelling. And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic with that, because when you go back and you look at some of the more recent engaging storylines, whether it be the Yes Movement, whether it be when the Wyatt family first dropped onto the scene, when you look even a little further back with, the Stone Cold and the Rock and the Vince McMahon angles, and, anything, that you want to take from, the, Ruthless Aggression era, moving back even to the Attitude era, when you had the whole Monday Night War thing happening between, with DX and the Ministry and, over in WCW, the NWO and the beginnings of that. One thing that popped into my mind too with last night was the 96 Bash at the Beach, when obviously Hulk Hogan turned on the Macho Man and WCW in general and dropped the atomic leg drop on the Macho Man, and ended up joining up with the Outsiders, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, to eventually form the NWO. What happened last night when Sami Zayn struck Roman Reigns with the chair? It was that type of moment. It was obviously, ironically enough, it was a rehash of everything that happened with Seth Rollins and The Shield. and the chair shot that Seth Rollins delivered to then Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. Obviously shocking. I think that was a little bit more unexpected at the time, as opposed to what happened last night with the build-up and how conflicted it seemed that Sami was throughout, the past few weeks at least. But again, though, you look at what happened last night and you look at some of these other epic storylines, and I think it's right up there. I think you could arguably make the case that this has been the best storyline. The Bloodline angle, the Bloodline story has been one of the best, if not the best, that pro wrestling has ever given us of all time. And I say that because there has been, and I'm not just saying that just to say it, because it's kind of it's the hot topic right now. It's the biggest thing that's happening in pro wrestling. I'm not saying it just because of that. I'm saying it because when you look at these different aspects of it, the subtle nuances week to week with the characters, and it's those little tiny differences and those little tiny pieces of detail that you get week to week, whether it be on Raw or SmackDown with this group. And I'm thinking to last week's Tribal Court, or whatever it is they called it, when Heyman is going on, laying out all of these different pieces of evidence against Sami Zayn and why he was guilty for what he did. You sat there and you looked at Jey Uso the entire time, and the look on his face, if you go back and you just watch Jey Uso the entire time, after the fact, the look on his face, the way he was looking at Sami, the way he looked like he was taking all of this in, it made sense in the very, once everything kind of culminated, and with him stopping Solo and playing his own piece of evidence in favor of Sami, it all made sense, because when you first looked at it, you're thinking to yourself, oh shit, Jay's going to end up turning on Sami, which it wasn't the case, because when you go back and you watch it and knowing what you knew after the fact, you can kind of see that, Jey Uso was completely on board with Sami Zayn and everything that he was, that he did for the Bloodline up until that point. And, the conflict within him, and that carried over to last night, when it just, when he was, the acting, and how he was playing it off as just being so, broken inside over Sami Zayn's choice to turn on Roman Reigns, and, perhaps, the additional conflict on how, he saw Sami getting, abused and berated by Roman, up until that point as well. It was, it's stuff like that that just helps add to the entirety of everything that was happening with this. Another great aspect is the characters in here are just completely top notch. Paul Heyman is a genius, I think, within this business, within the wrestling business. What he's been able to do, with, these different characters, and, his ability on the mic to elevate, some of these guys, because obviously before Roman Reigns got with, Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns people hated him. He was, obviously it felt like he was being shoved down the throats of fans of the WWE, pro wrestling fans in general. And it just wasn't working until they paired Reigns up with Heyman. And then that's where everything seemed to click. and it's just been great ever since. But like I was, to further highlight the point of the characters, every single character, in this story has been masterful of what they've been doing. How they reintroduce Jimmy to all of this. Earlier on in the angle, the conflict between Roman and Jay, which make, once again become a thing here in the next few weeks, in the next, leading up to WrestleMania. In the addition of Solo and how, they introduced the Solo character at Clash of the Castle and his role within the group and how he's playing everything up. It's been incredible. And it just seems like right now, Triple H, whatever he does with this story, it just turns to gold, because every single new turn, every single new twist, it just works. And you don't see that too often. And again, another reason why this has just been so masterful is because it's hard to hit on every single choice that you make with these different storylines, because we've seen it so many times before, especially with the longevity of this particular storyline. This has been going on for quite a while. And even I look back to the NWO storyline, because again, that's just one of those things that it just caught me. That juxtaposition with all of this, just because, you look at the dominance and when you, and just how iconic that was and what this is becoming right now. There were plenty of mistakes with the NWO and how that transpired in the longevity in it. And it's just something that you run into. And like I mentioned, there were plenty of them with the NWO. You're not seeing that with this angle though. And I know that the Bloodline story hasn't gone on nearly as long as what the NWO, went through. But still, you look at these nuances, you look at these choices and these twists and these turns in the angle itself, and you're hard pressed to find any mistakes in it. Not to mention, everybody seems invested in it. Everybody seems invested in their character. Everybody seems invested in the angle. It seems like they are really enjoying it, even with some of those weeks too on SmackDown or Raw, when you would look at Jay or Jimmy or even Roman in some sense, Sammy would say something just completely off the wall, something just completely stupid, but it worked. Stupid in a good sense. And they would just have to kind of turn away from the camera or put their face, in their hands, bury their face in their hands, just because they couldn't help but just break character and laugh. And it was, and that's just another aspect. It just makes it great, because it shows that they're having fun with it. They're enjoying it. But one of the biggest things too is that makes this great is you don't really know where it's heading from here. And that may be the best aspect of this, because last night, that wasn't the payoff. Obviously, there's just so much more of this to go, it seems like, and nobody has any idea which direction they're going to take with it. Because obviously last night, and we'll get to the men's Royal Rumble match here shortly, with Cody Rhodes winning it. And how does he fit into all of this? If he does fit into it, maybe they go a different angle with it. Maybe they somehow break up, unify the titles before WrestleMania, and Cody's able to challenge whoever wins the Universal or the WWE title, and, they do something else with Roman and the Bloodline from there. you just don't know. Where does, how does Kevin Owens continue to fit in all of this? What happens with Sami Zayn? What direction does he move into with it? Does he team up with Owens and go against the Usos? But even last night when Jay seemingly walked out on his family, where does he now go? What directions does he go in? Does he, and then you have the, the unified tag titles. Who challenges for those? Are those eventually broken up? Which there are rumors that they will be. Again, there's just a million different directions that they could go with this. And I don't think anybody has any good idea where they're going to go. Now, I can give my prediction on it. I could certainly see them breaking up the belts and having Roman defend one belt on one night of WrestleMania, the other belt, the second night of WrestleMania. Obviously you would think that Cody would challenge for one of those. Who challenges for the other one? I have no fucking clue whatsoever. Whether that would be Kevin Owens again, because last night's match between those two was again, it was really good. The match in and of itself was really, really good, and it seems like that gets forgotten right now just because of how everything ended. I look at those shots that Kevin Owens took on the stairs, with the back of his head hitting the edge of the steel steps. But it seems like there's more to come with that. So I don't know. I guess, a shot in the dark. I guess that would be my best guess is Roman defends on both nights of WrestleMania, one night against Cody, the other night against, I don't know. It could be Sammy. It could be KO again. It could be Jay. Who knows? It could be somebody totally, different who they happen to add in to, to the card, between now and then. Triple H, I know, said that The Rock wasn't going to be ready, but how often can you trust what Triple H would have to say in this sense? Because, it certainly seems like The Rock could be in play here too. Is it going to be The Rock challenging, the other night? It's amazing. It's crazy. I have no idea where it's going to go. I don't think anybody else has any idea where it's going to go, but it is the best storyline going on right now. And, like I mentioned, it very well could be the best, story that we have seen in professional wrestling of all time. So I do want to get to the Royal Rumble, though, just some reactions from the men's and the women's themselves. And they seemed very predictable, first and foremost. I think everybody saw Cody winning it. There was no doubt in my mind who was going to win that one. I always thought it was going to be Cody. The women's Royal Rumble match, and that's kind of a tongue twister saying, I wasn't surprised by Rhea Ripley winning, but there may have been a little bit more of a I don't think it was as obvious as Cody winning the men's side as Rhea winning the women's side was. But again, there's no shock in that. But with that said, I think that the WWE got both of those right. Cody was or is a main eventer. And I think that that's something that the WWE wants to continue to do, especially considering everything that Cody Rhodes has done away from WWE. He was an executive with AEW. I think that was, this has been in the cards all along for them to use him in that capacity. Even when, despite him coming in, when, Vince McMahon was in charge and, Triple H just, certainly seemed to carry that over as head of creative. And Cody's ready for it. I mean, it's not a bad choice putting Cody in there. He's over with the crowd. There's plenty of family history with him. He's great in the ring. It works. It's a good choice. And as far as Rhea goes, again, the key in all of this is crowd reaction and the WWE creative avoiding instances where they shove wrestlers, pro wrestlers, superstars, or whatever it is you want to call them, down your throat. We've seen it before, and this isn't something that's happening now. Rhea's been incredibly over with the crowd. Again, this whole thing that she's doing with Judgment Day is very, very good. She's good. She's good in the ring. She's good on the mic. Obviously, you need both of those aspects if you're really going to be a star within pro wrestling. But both of them too. Both finishes, the men's side and the women's side, both great. To further touch on, well, first of all, I want to say that the Iron Men and women, were both incredible as well. Gunther, Rhea Ripley, and even Liv Morgan as well just did a fantastic job. Gunther, first off, he needs a push here at some point. His work has been phenomenal. Ever since he stepped foot in WWE, whether it be in NXT with Imperium and what he's doing now with Imperium on the main roster, he's an incredible worker. He's been excellent. He's been excellent, and hopefully the WWE doesn't misuse him. Hopefully they don't, because the first thing I think of is somebody with incredible talent, a workhorse who was incredible with that particular company was Cesaro, and the WWE just completely misused him. Now, Gunther is a Triple H guy, which is good, and all the mistakes they made with Cesaro is when Vince McMahon was head of creative, and I know Vince McMahon is back now, but he's not head of creative. So hopefully, you have faith that Triple H is going to treat this instance differently than what happened with Cesaro. But he was incredible. I would love to see some type of I would love to see him in the main event picture at some point, sooner rather than later, because he was great last night. Imperium is really good as a tag team and as an entire, faction. It's really, really good. They get some good heat. They get that organic heat, which is even better, and it's great. I love it. Aside from that, though, there were some very nice storylines coming out of the men's side of the Royal Rumble last night. Brock versus Lashley. That's another one to continue to keep an eye on. I think that this is one of the more anticipated feuds that fans have been clamoring for a while now. Lashley, Lesnar, two big guys, MMA background. I think that is going to really give some fireworks to everybody. With kind of the wild card in all of this too is what happens with the Hurt Business. Does the Hurt Business get back together and kind of interject themselves into this potential storyline here, this angle here between Brock Lesnar and Lashley. The other one is Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. Logan Paul made his return last night, and I know Logan Paul gets a lot of shit. He gets a lot of heat, based off of some of the shit he's done outside of wrestling. But again, he's a great worker, great in the ring. That spot last night with Ricochet is going to go down as one of the greatest spots in Royal Rumble history. Flying through the air against Ricochet, meeting in the middle there, just, the sound, the optics, the heights. It was just amazing to see that. And then Edge returning last night with Beth Phoenix. That's another one to keep an eye on too, because obviously they're going to be feuding with Judgment Day, and there's obviously plenty of unfinished business with their with that whole angle as well. Beth Phoenix, her return last day, she looked ready to go, which was nice. Nice to see that. Edge always, even at his age right now, still looks great in the ring himself. So that's going to be another fun one to watch. On the women's side of the Royal Rumble, the story there was really the returns that were made. Chelsea Green, good to see her back. Obviously set a whole new record, for the fastest elimination. But again, I'm hearing she's back, and the rumor is too that she's going to be, having some type of Karen gimmick. And I guess she was kind of showing that after the pay-per-view was over with, in a backstage interview. It seems like that may be, the angle that they go with that. Asuka, good to see her back. Good that she's kind of getting a refreshed gimmick here, which we were kind of seeing before she took a little bit, of time away. That kind of, that crazy clown thing that was, very, very popular with fans in Japan. It's going to be cool to see that over here in the States. I'm really looking forward to that. I think a lot of other people are as well. Piper Niven returning, dropping the whole ridiculous Dewdrop name. Again, that was one of the most annoying things that was happening when Vince McMahon was in charge. Just taking these dominating popular characters from NXT, bringing them up to the main roster and giving them a whole new, name, and in some cases a whole new identity. So even, anybody who was invested with, NXT just totally had, they seeing them go to the main roster, have these totally different characters it was never cool. You always like to see that carryover. So it's good that she brought back her old name, Piper Niven. Cool to see that. Dropping Dewdrop. Dewdrop was just a stupid name to begin with. I never understood it. Natalya returned as well from her injury. I'm assuming that we're going to get some type of continuation there with Shayna Baszler. And then Nia Jax. Nia Jax made she was the last entrant to the Royal Rumble last night for the women, coming in at number 30. And Nia Jax is one that she gets a ton of hate, especially on social media, just because of, I guess, the way that she works in the ring and so on and so forth. I don't know. I like having Nia Jax in there. A dominating force. Maybe they fit her into the whole Bloodline thing here as well, considering she is part of the family. I wish that was something that WWE would pay a little bit more attention to, when it comes to these connections between, different wrestlers. But I don't know. I was happy to see Nia Jax back last night. Again, she adds, a completely, different dimension to all of this. And she's, a refreshing aspect to, what wrestling fans were, had to deal with, especially women's wrestling fans, had to deal with for so many years within the WWE and just pro wrestling in general. Just, just that certain persona that we were given with the whole divas thing, where they were divas. They were, they weren't portrayed as, actual legitimate wrestlers, which is something that I think that they deserved. During that whole era, it was just eye candy. It was, you go back and you listen to some of those, just perverted, cringeworthy takes that Jerry the King Lawler had during, during the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era with, women like Sable, and, it just got old ever since. But now it seems like we have, women that can really get in there and kick some ass. So, that's why I like, somebody like Nia Jax, because it looks like she just go in there and kick some ass. Same with Piper Niven, and then Asuka going in there too with, her being the buzzsaw. It's just really cool to see shit like that. It's refreshing, and it's with the times. So, to kind of finish things up though here, I want to touch on the two other singles matches that we had last night. First and foremost, I want to say, can we please, WWE, can we please stop with these gimmick matches with Bray Wyatt? They don't work. They're lame and they're undeserving. I don't want to word it like that. They're below these two guys. These guys, especially LA Knight, Bray Wyatt, two of the most intriguing characters in WWE and pro wrestling right now. LA Knight's incredible on the mic, on the microphone. Bray Wyatt is as well. Again, the whole Wyatt angle has been, something that fans have been clamoring for. With all the White Rabbit stuff, over the fall and, towards the end of the summer and everything. It's just, we don't need shit like this. We don't need pitch black matches. We don't need the stupid, red lighting that we get. Please, can we please drop it? And not to mention, this kind of stuff, what we saw last night is they're just matches that kind of suck the life out of the entire angle. And I could only think of just the way that the WWE completely botched and mishandled the whole Rollins and Wyatt angle that they had. And you had two incredible workers in Rollins and Wyatt going at it. And it turned out to be one of the worst angles of the year, one of the worst forgettable angles of all time. It sucked. And I just worry that that's just the way that they want to direct this whole thing with Wyatt, when it just seems like they need to take it back to basics with him. When he first came in, with the Wyatt family, it was, I don't want to say it was straight to the point, but they didn't rely on these extra gimmicks for him. The gimmicks that Wyatt and somebody like LA Knight, personified by themselves is enough. You don't want to saturate it or overdo it with just these lame gimmick matches. I don't want to see it again. If they want to sponsor it, in some way, then fine, whatever. If Mountain Dew wants to sponsor the Wyatt match, then do it. If, Coca-Cola wants to sponsor, the men's Royal Rumble match, then do it. I don't care. Just drop the gimmick matches. They don't work. They're lame. And they're beneath these guys. So, the other one, though, the Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss match with Bianca Belair winning, retaining her title. It's nothing really stood out with this one, and it's really unfortunate just because of how good both of these superstars are. Again, we got the whole creepy Bliss video montage at the end, so it certainly does seem like she's going to be part of this whole Wyatt Uncle Howdy, angle. Obviously, we've seen the lead up to it. And Belair too is incredibly talented. Probably the most talented wrestler on the women's side in the WWE. But the one thing that I have to say with all of this, it just seems like this whole title reign has gone stale. Now, the good news is this, it doesn't seem like this angle is over, because if they dropped last night's angle, or if this angle was dropped, if this feud was dropped between these two after what happened last night, it would be a failure. I don't think it's dropping. It doesn't seem like it's dropping, which is good, like I said, because I think there's much more potential in all of this. There's much more story to tell. So it's going to be, again, another interesting thing to keep an eye on moving forward, because I think this is still what Bianca Belair's title run needs is something like this. Now, last night, we wanted something more to come out of that. I don't think I'm wrong in saying that, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that would agree with me. We just have to wait and see how this plays out, because, like I mentioned, this is good for Belair's title reign here, because it was going stale. I think this is going to give it, some juice, to get it spiced up a little bit and moving in the right direction. So, patience is key, it seems like, with this. So, who knows? I guess we'll find out, more in the weeks ahead. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Raw is going to be a big one. Obviously, because lots of shit happened last night. So, in the meantime, though, stay tuned for more episodes of the Bottom Rope podcast here. You can find us on our website, thebottomrope.themajorsports.com, and catch us wherever you download your podcasts. Apple Music, Spotify. We'll be there, and catch us on YouTube as well. We'll also post this episode on our YouTube page at youtube.com/TheMajorTV. So, until next time, I am Adam Hernandez, and have a good night.